All right. So, what is DC Statehood Day? First of all, today, May 1st, or 5/1, was not chosen by accident. 5/1 happens to represent both the abbreviation of May 1st and our desire to become the 51st state. We conceived of DC Statehood Day as a rallying point. These movements like this need action to bring attention and drive conversations. So, we thought that if we choose a single point of focus, one day for DC Statehood Day, that could serve as a rallying cry for, yes, both DC residents, but also people throughout the country, to recognize the incredible need that the 700,000 taxpaying citizens of Washington, D.C. have to become a state, it would start to drive a lot of these conversations. So DC Statehood Day will hopefully become an annual event, and it is one to raise awareness and drive action around DC statehood. I'd like to just give a brief resume of all of the things that we've achieved so far for this inaugural DC Statehood Day, in hopes that future DC Statehood Days will have all of these and many more. We have gotten a resolution unanimously passed through the DC Council. We've gotten a mayoral proclamation establishing May 1st as DC Statehood Day. My understanding is that there's a congressional record statement in the works from Representative Norton's office. Thank you very much. We've received a statement of support from Representative Jamie Raskin, who's a tireless advocate of DC statehood. We've run a digital advertising campaign to raise awareness around DC statehood that to date has generated over 500,000 digital impressions on Facebook, on YouTube, on Google search, and throughout the rest of the internet. We've circulated a petition asking both DC residents and non-DC residents to sign up in support of DC statehood. We've received approximately 2,700 signatories to date, which, you know, in the history of all petitions may not be a world-beating number, but when you think about it, it's over 3% of Washington, D.C.'s population, so that ain't too bad. We've generated earned media, both thanks to the members of the press who are here today, as well as a podcast that Lori and Bruce did a few weeks ago promoting the issue, so we're very excited about that. We've launched the DC Statehood Day store, which will soon be converted into the DC Statehood Pack store, so you can buy all of your merchandise. And then tonight, Franklin Garcia is hosting a showing of The Last Battlefront, a documentary about the fight for voting rights in Washington, D.C. That's going to take place at 6 p.m. at the Shaw Library. Is that correct? Okay, good. I've got it. We've got flyers for anyone who's interested to attend that. And with that, my job is pretty much done. It is my great pleasure to introduce Lori Masters, the president of DC Statehood PAC, who is a tireless advocate of DC statehood on many fronts and through many organizations. And I'm sure you will all appreciate the passion with which she speaks right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. It's so exciting to see all of you here today to celebrate the first ever DC Statehood PAC. Oh, I'm sorry, DC Statehood Day. I just added that. It's all about the day today, and it's all about DC statehood. So why DC statehood? Why DC Statehood Day? As we like to say, statehood is democracy, and specifically DC statehood is democracy. So we're here to fight for founding ideals of our country and promote what we think is one of the the last issues coming out of the civil rights era. So first of all, I'd like to thank all of the people who have helped bring us to this point. Everyone on our board, everyone in the DC Statehood PAC board, many of whom are here today. People like Daniel Solomon, who I credit with helping inspire me, and Bruce Spiva, through all of the things that I've done to promote DC Statehood Day. We do have the resolution from the council, and we have a statement by our Congresswoman, Eleanor Holmes Norton, the most tireless and passionate defender of DC statehood. I I wanted to show you that we have the official mayoral proclamation declaring May 1 DC Statehood Day. Open this up for you. You know, gold seals are really wonderful, right? Anyway, thank you to the mayor, to the council, to Eleanor Holmes Norton, and also to Jamie Raskin, who could not be with us today. So he did send a statement, and I wanted to read from that statement. There are copies out front. But as he said, today is DC Statehood Day, is a political and moral imperative for America, which needs the equal voice and participation of our community, the DC community, at every level of government to help us get through the multiple crises of fanaticism and authoritarianism affecting our society today. So thank you to Jamie Raskin, who could not be here today. So what are we going to do? This is our first ever DC Statehood Day, but we are not going to give up on this effort until we have achieved DC statehood. So to be clear, until we have Douglas Commonwealth, the 51st state, named after Frederick Douglass. So I'd like to close by quoting Frederick Douglass, the Lion of Anacostia, who said, "Power concedes nothing without a demand." So DC Statehood Day is part of our demand. So thank you all for coming.
Good morning. It's so good to see all of you all here today, and I'm going to be very brief because the person I think that everybody really wants to hear from this morning, the tireless and indefatigable, if I can say that word right, Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton. But I'm so delighted that this is actually happening, DC Statehood Day. And it's great to have a day when we here in DC can focus on this and really kind of inspire our friends and neighbors to get involved and engage in this struggle again. And from there, go out and inspire people in the country to come to our side until we achieve DC statehood. I'm thinking today about the old civil rights anthem, Eyes on the Prize, right? Eyes on the prize. Our eyes are firmly on the prize of full democracy for the people of DC. And you all recall the famous words, "The one thing we did wrong was staying in the wilderness too long," right? The wilderness of apathy, the wilderness of cynicism and complacency. And one thing that we're doing today is declaring a renewal. And so the one thing we did right was the day we started to fight. The day that we left behind apathy. Because I think our fellow citizens are not truly apathetic about this. I think a lot of them have become dispirited and downhearted out of a belief that this can never happen. But we're closer than we've ever been. As hard, as difficult as this hour may seem, we've got 46 senators who have co-sponsored the statehood bill that Congressman Norton got through the House twice, and that was historic, getting it through the House. And so we've got to engage our fellow citizens and help them realize that this is not a fruitless effort, that this is not something that can't be accomplished, and that we need to encourage them to engage in the struggle again. So the one thing we did right was the day we started to fight. Now we know that today is not the day that we just started to fight. We stand on the shoulders of people like Congressman Eleanor Holmes Norton and many people who've come before us in this fight. And many of us have been involved in this fight as well for decades. But we need to engage our fellow citizens to fight once again. So with that, I want to turn it over to our champion fighter for this great cause, So appreciate all your efforts over the decades, Congressman Norton, and your efforts in helping us achieve this day, which we know it's symbolic, but it's important because it is a day that we can recommit ourselves to continuing this struggle until we achieve the ultimate victory of full democracy for the people of DC. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our champion, Congressman Elmore Norton.
Well, thank you very much. What a great idea. I can't say enough about the creativity, the imagination of DC residents to keep before the country, to keep before the Congress what it needs to know so that nobody relaxes and everybody sees DC residents fighting as we are fighting today. The notion, the creative idea of using May 1st is another item in the roster we have to keep America focused on the notion that the residents of their own capital do not have the same rights as everybody else. So I really appreciate DC PAC and all of you for this creative new idea. By the way, I'm going to count to make sure that there are 51 places right there, because you see all the symbolism that helps us keep the idea going, keeps churning up the American people to be with us, keeps putting pressure that helps me in the Congress. The single idea of taxation without representation that gave rise to the American Revolution still resonates today. The first day of the 5th month, or 5/1. Significant because when DC achieves statehood, we will be the 51st state. As the sole member of Congress representing the district and the author of the DC statehood bill, achieving the full rights and privileges of statehood for the nation's capital has been a career-defining effort for me. After 2 House passages and an unprecedented hearing in the Senate, I dare say we are closer than ever before to becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. DC residents pay the highest federal taxes per capita and more federal taxes than 23 states. What in the world should we have to do further? Yet, our residents have no voting representation in Congress. That is not the case for any capital anywhere else in the world. Shame on the United States. Coming in this, the 3rd century of our nation, however, statehood means much more to us than dollars and cents, much more than paying the highest taxes. The significance, first and foremost, is that residents of the nation's capital who have worked for more than 200 years for this imprimatur, opening the path to all the elements of the full meaning of statehood. But for me, the cause of statehood is also personal. And not because I'm the author of the bill. It is personal because for 3 generations, my own family has yet to attain the rights other Americans take for granted. The DC statehood bill will always be a personal acknowledgement from me in the name of Richard Holmes my great-grandfather who escaped as a slave from a Virginia plantation. Richard Holmes made it as far as the District of Columbia, a walk to freedom, but not to equal citizenship. In addition to my efforts to pass the DC statehood bill, I introduced a resolution to designate 5/1 as DC statehood bill, or DC statehood day, to highlight the need for equality for DC residents as early and as often as possible, until statehood finally puts an end to the nation's oldest slogan, taxation without representation. I will not stop fighting for equal treatment for the residents of the District of Columbia, using symbols such as the one we introduced today. Thank you very much.
Before you go, would anyone like to ask questions? If you don't mind sticking around for a second. Yeah. Any questions?
I think they know everything.
Can I get a picture?
They lived it.
The form that she had, the statement?
Oh, sure. Yeah, the proclamation? you mean?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Who's got the proclamation?
It's a good question.
Thanks so much. Well, if no questions, thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it.
Wait.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Before you leave, we were going to invite Hector Rodriguez to say just a few words for veterans for DC statehood.
Thank
And
you.
then I'd like to close out.
So sorry. Yes, please come forward, Hector.
I am thrilled to follow our illustrious Congresswoman, and Ms. Norton is my leader, and I've always followed her, so it's symbolic that I just followed her in the speech. You know, freedom, that's what this movement is about. DC statehood is a call to freedom. And I'm here to speak for every American in Washington, D.C., Latinos, blacks, white, women, everyone, because our movement is inclusive. It includes everyone in our city. What is freedom? We talk about freedom all the time. To me, freedom is the spirit. It's the spirit of God's love in our soul. It's a spirit that God places in our soul. It's love. That's what freedom is all about. And you know, DC is not only the capital of the United States, it is a symbolic symbol to freedom for the entire world. Washington, D.C. is a symbolic capital of freedom for the entire world. I'm a veteran, and I'm proud to have served my country, and I did well in the military. I followed orders, and I gave commands. But the most important thing about being a veteran is your love of country. And so, you know, freedom is something that we have to continue to fight for every day. And so I say to you, my fellow Americans, my friends, that you know, Russia is not denying us a participation in the Congress of the United States. The Chinese are not holding us back from voting in the Congress of the United States. Who's holding us back legally the Republicans, our Republican Party, that regime, our own Republican Party, is the one that is holding us back from voting in the Congress of the United States. Technically, and I speak hard at this, we in DC are political prisoners of this regime. And someone was asked by the press in the Republican Party, well, why don't you vote for DC statehood? They said, well, we're afraid that if we vote for DC statehood, they'll vote Democratic. Well, I'd vote Democratic too if I was being held as a political slave, okay? When you could have freed our people with your vote in the Congress of the United States. I'm very emotional about this. And I say to you that I have the same feeling and the same trust that our illustrious Congresswoman has. And I thank you all for being here. And we're going to build this movement. We're not going to stop until we're free.
I can hardly improve on that. But I would like to say that one of the things that we believe at this moment in time is, to coin a phrase, no donation without representation. I think all of us in this room probably have knocked the doors, recruited our friends. I've started groups to support politicians. I have recruited people from across the country. I've gone to battleground states. I've done all of that for candidates. But this is the message from us today, too, that we will support those who support us. And if they don't, there's no more support. There's no more donation of time, no more donation of money until we get DC support for statehood. So I'd like to thank you all for coming, and this is a call to action. We go forward from here to redouble our fight and to get DC statehood. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Really appreciate your time and dedication.
Are you a member?
You want to be